say they haven't seen a flooding event like this since 1986. That's almost 30 years ago. Thankfully, their ATM machine has great cameras, so they were able to get really good pictures of these suspects. This is what we know, though, and it has been confirmed by ECISD police that a student at Permian High School this morning came to school and he was found to have a gun on him. Something went terribly wrong when an FBI agent accidentally shot himself in the foot. Take a look. You can actually still see the dried blood that runs all the way up the walkway. They've decreased serious crimes by about 19.2%. However, if you look at just the past 2 years, that's a much different story. It all started right here in her son's bedroom. In just 10 days, it'll mark the 5-year anniversary that Haley Dunn went missing. It really is pretty rare to have anything this violent happen in Glasscock County. As you can see, when they show up, they're being turned away right at the trailhead. The old black and white uniforms would actually blend into the West Texas landscape. However, wearing pink, you can't really miss it. 83-year-old Norberto Lagarda had made plans to help out his relatives for a few days while they were out of town by feeding their dog. But just before 10 a.m., the simple task of helping his family turned terribly wrong and shook an entire neighborhood.
That's a crazy thing.
David Vahill walks his block every morning, but this day was different. His footsteps and the usual sound of traffic was drowned out by a sound he will never forget.
And then I heard the real horrible noise, real horrible.
Then it was what he saw. 3 pit bulls in the backyard of his neighbor's home attacking their Labrador retriever.
So I looked around, got a stick, boom, boom, I hit them in the head. They won't do nothing, so I guess I poked them, and I was yelling at them, SOBs and all that kind of stuff.
David felt it was time to leave, and when he turned around, that's when he saw the unexpected.
I looked back and there was a man face down lying there and I said, Lord have mercy. I walked up and dialed 911.
Police arrived and determined Norberto had already passed away, but questions of how everything happened is still left to be investigated.
We think the evidence is going to show those dogs got into a fight and then the victim tried to separate them. That's when the pit bulls turned on him.
But how the pit bulls ended up in the backyard remains unknown. I've walked around both of the homes to look at the fence and see if there was any place these dogs could have gotten out. They seem to be well maintained, and as you can see, the fence is actually taller than I am. The only damage is right here, and it's relatively small. We attempted to speak to the owner of the pit bulls, but no one was home for a comment. Now, what's left of the morning's incident has residents in shock and a community saying a prayer for their neighbors. With your eye on Pecos, I'm Lauren Lanmon, CBS 7 News. The sound of an ice cream truck driving through a neighborhood can be the most exciting part of any child's day.
I had kids chasing me down the street.
But what if one of those friendly faces handing the neighborhood children ice cream was actually a registered sex offender?
It's scary, I mean, for somebody to be riding around on a truck like that where there's kids playing and stuff like that. I mean, they shouldn't be out there.
That's exactly what happened earlier this month when a woman caught a driver of one of Frosty Treats ice cream trucks taking pictures of students.
I've been here 20 years. And this is the first time I've had this situation happen.
Dave Bethune, a manager of the company, hired David Romo, who has sexual assault charges out of Minnesota and California.
We sure don't want people like that. I have a 11-year-old son, and I sure don't want people like that hanging around my shop, and I sure don't want them out there with the children.
Romo only worked for the company for 2 days before his past was dug up. Bethune says the hire was an accident and the company won't hire registered sex offenders, no matter how long ago the offense occurred. So why don't we do background checks on every person that comes in?
We can, we do. Well, not all of them, but we can do it on all of them. And we're supposed to do it on all of them.
And so how did this guy get missed?
Well, he's only here 2 days, so it takes a little bit for us to get a background check on it.
According to state law, registered sex offenders who finish parole and probation are able to work around kids. The only jobs they can't hold include driving a bus, a taxi, a limousine, or run amusement park rides.
But driving an ice cream truck is not on that list, unfortunately.
Because it's not on the list, working for the company wasn't the crime, but rather not reporting a job change to police. Illegal or not, Bethune says these kinds of criminals should never be hired by the Frosty Treats ice cream company. So you think this guy just accidentally went through the system?
Yep.
From now on, what is your proceedings in
We
hiring?
need to do it before we go ahead and hire them.
With both parents usually holding down a job, it isn't surprising that many families leave their children in a daycare facility's hands. But do you know the history behind your daycare of choice, and how would you even find out? Here in the Permian Basin, we found child care units cited for everything from unclean facilities, a lack of training, and even abusing or neglecting children. All things many parents never find out. As a parent, it takes a lot of trust to leave your child in the hands of strangers, but thousands do it every day. The safety of your children is handled by more than 100 licensed daycares in Midland and Odessa. In just 2 years, those very same daycares received almost 500 violations, all inspected by the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services.
Yeah, I might want to put these bottles maybe up a little bit higher. You know, I still have to come in and do my walkthrough, check background checks. Hi, how are you? Can I come in?
For the past 9 years, Child Care Licensing Inspector Sheila Houston has kept a close eye on Permian Basin facilities.
How are you? I'm good. I'm Sheila with Child Care License. You just have to make sure that they're in compliance with the minimum standard. Lisa, what's your last name?
Those who don't meet the minimum standards are cited. CBS 7 came across surprising inspection reports that showed employees of multiple Permian Basin daycares working without background checks, others with chemicals stored within arm's reach of little ones, and one violation that stated a child was left unsupervised while staff went to lunch and was later found on a playground. The violations are no secret, but many parents don't even know they exist.
Yeah.
Odessa mother Erica Garza did her research before choosing a daycare for her 2 children.
I looked at location, my route to work, how long they had been open.
She conducted an endless amount of online research and spoke with other parents before making a final decision to send her children here to Laura Lee's Child Care.
Before we took him to daycare, he was laughing and giggling.
That memory is from November 3rd, the second day Erica dropped her 2 boys off at their new daycare.
They were both very happy, very healthy babies.
Hours later, Erica received the worst news any parent could hear, that a baby had passed away at the daycare her children attended.
And I immediately called the daycare. And I called. And I called. And I called. With every unanswered phone call, I knew it was my baby.
Erica's mother arrived at the daycare first, pushing past officers in an attempt to reach baby Jeremiah. But by that time, the daycare had transformed from a business to a full-fledged crime scene.
Police officers were there, the crime lab, everything, and as soon as I got off the vehicle, I was looking for a way in, and they pulled me up to the side of the garage, and I said, I've got to go in, I've got to see him, I have to, and my mom held me, and she said, baby, you can't, they won't let you, and I said, no, Mom, I have to, and they wouldn't let me.
It's been 3 weeks and a cause of death has yet to be determined, and it's important to note investigators have not placed blame on the daycare.
Police officers were there, the crime lab, everything, and as soon as I got off the vehicle, I was looking for a way in, and they pulled me up to the side of the garage, and I said, I've got to go in, I've got to see him, I have to, and my mom held me, and she said, baby, you can't, they won't let you, and I said, no, Mom, I have to, and they wouldn't let me.
It's been 3 weeks and a cause of death has yet to be determined, and it's important to note investigators have not placed blame on the daycare. We've reached out to the daycare several times.
This is Lauren Lanmon with CBS 7 News.
And have yet to hear a response. However, after losing her 4-month-old smiling baby boy, Erica once again set out to research her daycare, but this time the results she found were different and surprising.
All of their state records, audits, everything is public record.
Erica got onto TexasChildCareSearch.org, found Lord Lee's, and discovered the daycare had 18 violations in the past 2 years, ranking the facility with the 3rd most violations in all of Ector County, a startling difference from what she had found just weeks before.
When you hear that, would you ever have sent your child to that daycare?
Of course not. Of course not. I would take him to the best one. Who wouldn't?
Reese.
And inspectors agree that research is key, not only online, but a physical walkthrough before a decision is made is beneficial.
Are the teachers interacting with the kids? Are the kids happy? What smells are you picking up as well? Does it smell clean? Does it smell dirty? All those are cues as to what makes a good daycare center.
All cues and tips Erica wishes she was aware of just 1 month ago. Now she hopes her experience will help other mothers be aware of the resources that are available when choosing their next daycare.
It's worth your time, and it's worth your children's lives to research and to look into that website and see what kind of violations a daycare has before you put your children in that environment.